Don't mind me, I'm just gonna get a few beans here and a little coffee. You been in for a while? On the record, you probably got your strays in so fast, because I thought I could hear Nelson singing on the trail. Yeah, it's kind of funny. It scares to death women and children. It makes dogs howl, but for somehow calves love it. I don't know. Seems to be real good there. Y'all don't have to mind me. I heard y'all over there talking and shooting the breeze coming in. Go ahead and make yourself. Go ahead and make yourself at home. You sure everybody got some beans and some coffee? I tell you what, I sure do like nothing more than coming in after a while on the trail and just sitting down with friends. And it looks like we've got some extra friends here with us today. Be sure to know that you sure are welcome around our fire. Just come on in and make yourself comfortable. A little close so you won't get too cold out there. I didn't mean to interrupt your stories. You can go ahead and start shooting some stories if you like. I'll tell you what, it gets kind of lonesome out there all during the day. And I sure do value my time being able to come in and spend it with friends. Tell a few stories or two.
How about if you tell us that Christmas story?
Ah, that Christmas story. I reckon I can tell that. You guys want to hear that Christmas story? I'll tell you what. There's several stories out there that are humorous. Some of them have a little action in them. Some of them are kind of sad, I guess. And there ain't no story that ever changed my life like that Christmas story. I'd be happy to tell that to you. In fact, I'll be perfectly honest with you. There ain't a day that goes by whenever I'm not out there working in cows, I don't think about that night. Actually, to be perfectly honest with you, tonight, kind of like tonight. Clear skies, stars out. In fact, that real big one there kind of reminds me of that real big one that was shining that night. Well, I sure wasn't expecting what was going to happen to me. It was a day like any others. He was out there working the cows. And I tell you what, them were the most cantankerous buggers that day I'd ever seen. More strays than I could count. The terrain really wasn't all that good. We had worked and worked and worked to try to gather them in. If that wasn't enough, my poor old horse over there, brother, found the biggest beehive I think I'd ever come across that day. To say the least, it just really wasn't the best of days, but at the same time, it was a good day. I guess it's a lot like life. But I sure wasn't ready for what was about to happen. We just kind of started gathering in those cattle so they could be in new pasture to graze. Found them some green grass that day. So the rest of us, we were just kind of watching, just kind of making sure they were okay. But that's when it happened. I hadn't even dismounted off my horse, to be honest with you. We were sitting here watching, and all of a sudden, this biggest, brightest light I'd ever seen. Came shining right out of heaven. But it wasn't just any light. No, I could tell, so I kind of stared at it for a little bit. It didn't take long to figure out. It was just no light. It was an angel of God himself. And let me tell you, brother there, who usually don't spook, got a little spooky. And if I can be honest with you, I was scared plumb to death. In fact, if the truth be known, I thought I was going to die. You see, I knew God a little bit. I was out in his creation every day. I knew there had to be someone out there that was bigger than me. I knew there had to be something out there that could create all that beauty that I got to ride in every day. But as far as really knowing him, I don't know that I could say I really did. And in fact, to be perfectly honest with you, I figured he'd be the last person on earth that would visit me or tell me anything about himself other than what he made. Yep, to be perfectly honest, deep down I knew I didn't really know him. When he sent his messenger that day, you know what? I thought I was dead. See, I didn't really have a lot of church upbringing. Occasionally my mom would take me into the temple in the town growing up. Dad never really cared that much about going. Mom would always insist I needed to go. So I went in a couple times, but I'll be honest with you. Just being a youngin' there inside that big old temple, all I could think of is just getting out. To be honest with you, I just wanted to go ride horses with Daddy. So I can't really say for certain that anything stuck other than, you know what, I knew there was a good Lord out there. Well, as I got a little older, I had this hankering, kind of this hunger, if you would. Just kind of felt lost. I didn't really know what it was. Oh, I didn't have the most of everything, but you know, the life I did have seemed to be very good. I enjoyed working in cattle. I certainly enjoyed spending time with brother. But you know what? I just felt like there was something missing. Even though I was riding in God's creation every day, I just, in a way, felt like I was on the outside of it. So one day, I decided to spend a little time. I got a buddy of mine to kind of look after the herd there for an hour or so. And I rode back into town. I went into that temple. I thought I was going into it. I was worried about what I got on. And honestly, I was smelling about like I smell now. I've been working. Night's been long, but you know what? I just kind of want to find my maker. So I took off. And I guess that town was pretty surprised to see me. Normally, all of us guys would ride in at once. And let me tell you something. If there was any group of fellows that knew how to wreck Bethlehem, it was us. The saloon couldn't keep enough liquid in it to satisfy our thirst. And I tell you what, the townspeople sure was happy to see us leave after we got through with our hooping and hollering and rousing around. I guess it's just kind of hard for folks to understand that you're not really able to kind of let your hair down, so to speak. When you finally get the opportunity, then sometimes, you know what, you just kind of go a little crazy. We didn't mean no harm ever, but it sure was fun. Well, this day I came riding in alone. Quit riding up to that temple. Well, I wish you could see the looks I got. At first, I didn't know if they were really directed to me or to brother. But we got them just the same. I slipped down out of the saddle, expecting to go right in. There, I was met there at the door. I was met there at the door by people that were scoffing and saying I couldn't wear that inside their fancy church. I tried to explain to them this is all I had. And it just didn't seem to be a good enough answer. They later informed me that I wouldn't be welcome there anyway, even if I did have some decent clothes to put on, because I really wasn't following the rules. Well, I knew I probably wasn't no count for nothing in regards to religious matters. And I asked them, just what rules are you talking about? And they said, well, if you come in here, you only have to, you got to only work 6 days a week and not 7. Well, the kind of job I have, I'm not able to work just 6 days a week. The stock needs me 7 days. I really wasn't able to leave them. So, instead of trying to push through and get on in, I just kind of left things alone. I left the preacher there that told me I wasn't following the rules. I left the crowd there that told me I wasn't good enough to be in. And I head on back to the trail. And I'll be honest with you, I was mad. And I don't know if I was as mad as and aggravated as how I was disrespected that day, or if I was more mad about how they disrespected brother. Either way, I hit the trail. I was certainly aggravated, to say the least. As I was riding back, I guess I had a lot to think about. But I'll be honest with you, one of the things I really just came to terms with in my head was the fact that, you know what, I'm not really sure who God is. I know He exists. But honestly, maybe it's just not meant to be for me to know Him the way that maybe some other folks do. Pards, let me tell you, I couldn't have been more wrong. I happened to be out there on that night. After we got the cows in, they kind of calmed down real well. That bright light shined down, and there was that angel. I just knew he was there to kill me. All I could think about is those bad thoughts I thought toward those group of people and that old preacher that day. I thought surely God's striking me down for it. Brother was bouncing around too. Probably because, you know, he likes to sneak hay and treats whenever I'm not looking. And at times, whenever I go to put some shoes on his feet, he likes to take his teeth and bite me right on my backside. I guess the reality was we all knew we both came up short. But boy, was I surprised. Because what came out of that angel's mouth next shook me to my core. He didn't say that he came to kill me, but he said I got good news. He told me to be at peace and not be afraid, and it was amazing. I don't know how he did it, because I've never been able to do a horse that way, but just by speaking, he was able to get that horse calm and still as could be. And you know what? For the first time, I think I was calm too. I just sat there and stared and all. I couldn't believe what was happening. In all honesty, I was kind of unsure if I was really seeing it. I wondered if I had worked so hard that day that I was having some sort of hallucination. That's whenever he went on and he said, today, this day, born in Bethlehem, is the Messiah, the chosen one, the anointed one, the one that was going to forgive all of our shortcomings and sins. I stood there and all. Honestly, I just couldn't believe what was being said to me and who was saying it. And for the first time, as I've been wandering out on many a trail, I thought, is it possible that now then I'm actually going to find the right one? As I said, I didn't spend a whole lot of time in the temple. But I remember the few times I was there, they talked about this fellow named Messiah, Christ. The guy that was going to make it right for everybody, no matter what kind of wrongs they did. I'll be honest with you, that was my kind of fellow. That's what I needed the most. And here this angel was telling me. That's exactly what's going on. But I tell you what, whenever he told me that, I just couldn't wait. I spurred brother there and I said, go, brother. We got to get to Bethlehem. Go. And I took off riding. The only thing that I had that I knew I was looking for was that angel had said, just to make sure I knew this was no hallucination, and just to make sure that I wasn't out of my mind or crazy, he said, this is how you're going to know that Christ is born. He's going to be in a manger. He's going to be wrapped in swaddling clothes. I tell you what, that sounded like my kind of fellow again. You mean that the King of heaven and the King of earth chose to be born in a barn? Oh, this was almost like too good to be true. I rode hard. I'm going to tell you right now, I never leave my stock. I always make sure they are taken care of. But there was just something with what that angel told me. I just knew they were going to be okay, but I had to get to Bethlehem. I took off riding fast and hard. I started looking throughout the city. On my way in, I thought, man, I just want to get there before anybody else. I just want to see him before anybody else. I just want a chance alone with him before anybody else. I could imagine the big crowds that were going to be there and the people that were going to be surrounding this baby, this king, this Savior. You know what? To my surprise, whenever I got there was nobody. I had been worried the whole time going in that, you know what, they wouldn't let me in the temple. Chances are those same church folks and that preacher fellow there in that temple, he ain't going to let me in this barn to see him either. But none of those people were there. I rode in. I took my hat off to Mary. I shook Joseph's hand. And I told him what happened to me out there in that field. And I took a knee to that baby. Even though he was just a baby in that manger, somehow I knew he was my path. even though he was there tucked and asleep, and I knew that in my spirit I could rest just as easy because he's here. I didn't know how, but I knew it was true. I knew it was true. I got up and I asked where everybody else was. I said, I can't believe that fancy preacher ain't down here, and I can't believe all those church people that turned me away. I can't believe they're not here. I can't believe I'm the first one. I'm happy I'm the first one, so I got to spend this time, but I guarantee you, everybody is on their way. They looked at me and they said, no one else has been told. I want to tell you right now, I dang near passed out. And I'm glad I didn't, because brother there had just left a present for me right behind. And it wasn't guacamole. I said, no one else knows? She said, no, you're the first that we know is anybody's been told this aside from us. I couldn't believe it. I'm just a cowboy. Man, I was as far from God as could be. I didn't attend temple. I worked 7 days a week. I didn't obey the rules. I tried to be as good as I could, but any cowboy tries to live with courage, honesty, respect, integrity, strength, and truth. But man, in regards to God, man, I wasn't nowhere near good. And I said, you mean to tell me that this news isn't in town? That nobody else knows? He came to me to our herd to let us know this? I was in shock. I couldn't believe it. God would do such a thing. I thought for sure he'd tell somebody else that was a lot more dignified than I am. I thought for sure he'd show himself in this great news, the thing that people have been waiting on for thousands of years. Surely he would tell somebody that had a little more know-how than me. But he told me. And let me tell you what I did. I got up from there, and there was one place that I couldn't wait to go. I was going to rip-roar through Bethlehem again. This time it was a different reason. I knocked on every door. I shouted in every window. And I began to go through saying, he's here, he's here. That fellow that's written in your religious books, he's here, he's born tonight. Christ is here. Half of them thought I'd done emptied out the saloon again. Some started to believe. And they started to filter in, and they started to be really joyful. That made me happy, because I tell you, you wake somebody up that late at night, you better have good reason. Slowly the town began to filter in and see. People began to believe, and I tell you what, that town became the most joyful town. And you know what? Anytime I'd ride back in, and the fellows, they were happy to see us. I think they were probably about as confused as we were as to why God himself would tell us this great news. But boy, they received it with joy. But then something happened. See, I have to tell you that when you're out there working the open range, you're not around people all that much. And to be perfectly honest with you, our reputation really wasn't that great. And even though we tried to live by that code I just told you about, if anything ever came up missing or something ever happened, we were the ones that always got the blame. But for 2 years, Bethlehem greeted us with open arms. But then it happened. The most tragic of things. Terrible things. See, there was a king that was ruling the area at that time. His name was Herod. And I don't know why he reckoned that Jesus' birth was a bad thing. I guess people are afraid to give up what they got in regards to knowing God or him being part of their lives. But the reality is that if that old king would have had half the brain that God gave him, he'd recognize that, you know what, everything he's ruling over is God's anyway. But he didn't look at it like that. What he had was his. And hearing about a new king being born didn't set easy with old Herod. In fact, it didn't set easy with him at all. He got his troops together. And he ordered that all those troops were to storm Bethlehem. And they were to look for every young boy that was there from 2 years and younger. And they were to kill them. Luckily, Joseph and Mary and Jesus done took off. Seeing God had warned them to get out of town. But for those other parents there, Christmas became pretty somber. And let me tell you where they laid the foot of the blame. Right here at this cowboy. That old cowboy went and rode into town telling everybody that Jesus is born, telling everybody that the Messiah is here. If that cowboy and those cowboys would just stay out of our town, if they had just kept their mouth shut, we'd still have our little boy. I want to tell you what, that's a burden that probably no man can bear. I really didn't understand God's plan and all that. I don't know that I ever will. Other than just, you know what, there's just some evil people in this world and bad things can happen there. But regardless of that, I felt as low as I could be. I began to wonder if maybe what the townspeople said really wasn't true in some way. Really, if it wasn't my fault. I mean, maybe if I'd have just been quiet. I never really had a whole heap to say. Maybe if I'd have just shut up that one time. Maybe if I just wouldn't have told everybody else. Then maybe things would have been a whole lot better. Maybe those parents wouldn't have had to suffer so. To be honest, I just didn't know. At the time, I just knew the news was so good, I just couldn't help but share it. So I continued to wander the trail. I wondered if I really did the right thing. So I kind of kept an eye on that boy as he grew up. That boy made it pretty good. He was born in a barn, and I want to tell you something. He knew his way around horses, but all kind of animals. one time I even seen him ride a wild, never been rode donkey right through Bethlehem. Now I thought, man, that's my kind of cowboy. But better him than me. I'd watch him grow up. And I just kind of see how God would use this man to talk to other people and kind of lead them on the right trail. Kind of the same as he did me. Deep in my heart, I still kind of felt the blame. And I wondered if this Christ, if he blamed me too. That's whenever I kind of heard him on the hill. Heard him telling some folks one time, whenever I was able to just kind of pull my horse up a little bit without notice and listen in. I heard him say that he was the Lamb of God. Got to thinking, if he's really as mad as me as everybody else is thinking, why would he be comparing himself to my stock? He told these same people that he took away the sins of the world. I got to reckoning that, you know what? That means for me too. Even this guilt I'm feeling. Later on, as he got a little older and he was still talking, I was able to ride up again. And he was telling this story about how that if just one calf ever strayed away from the herd, that he'd lead the whole herd to go and find that one to bring it back. I don't know how many people were listening to him that day, but this cowboy was. Because I felt like I was the one that strayed away. That I was kind of lost all over again. I think he was saying that just for me. Saying, no, cowboy, come on. I guess the most powerful thing maybe I ever heard him say was those dang preachers and church folk was crucifying him again, crucifying him on the cross, and acting the way that they act all over again. I heard him say this, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. I figured if he treated them like that, then truly that's how he would treat me too. Because I tell you, I ain't too proud to say that this old cowboy here don't always know what he's doing. On that hill, me and brother there was watching as he died that day. But you know what? Brother and I were also there that night. And then we heard a great rumbling on the ground. And the place where they laid him, and that stone that was covering up his tomb, just rolled over all by itself. In fact, that same fellow that appeared to us that night was the one pushing it over to the side. And out walked Jesus. Why? It just confirmed everything to us that angel had said in the beginning. The things I learned about whenever I was knee-high to a grasshopper going to temple with my mama. There it was, standing right there in my face. We got to sneak around a little bit and hear what he told his other disciples. And we were there by that mountain. And then he said that he's going to ascend high, but once again come back. And he just lifted up and parted it off. I tell you what, I knew at that time I was riding for a brand bigger than me. I'd committed my way and my life to Him, and I knew I was riding for His brand and for His kingdom. Yeah, I might be punching cows 7 days a week, and I might be taking care of that. But you know what? God didn't care about any of that. He cared about me. He forgave me. He wanted me to ride for Him. You know what, guys? As I sit here around this fire with you and stand here with you and tell this story, I'll tell you this. He promised one thing. He'd come back the same way that He left. Now that's a little baby. But that's the boss on the ranch. Returning and gathering all those that's riding for His brand to Himself. What would that day be like? I imagine it would be like the first time I heard the announcements of His birth. If I'm still living and healthy, I would imagine I'll be punching cows somewhere. I imagine it'll be like a day of any other, some good, some bad. And then in a moment, I'll see the boss coming right back. He said he's going to be on horses this time. I prefer that over donkeys. And then we'll ride away. I reckon that's about all I can tell of the Christmas story. That's how it affected me. That's what happened on the night that I was there watching. And I guess, you know, it kind of wraps it up. And honestly, I know you got some stories to tell yourself. I think I'm going to get Brother there and kind of lead him out and get him to some green grass out there in the pasture. But you know what? I'll tell you something I really like. I love campfire songs. So if you don't mind, why don't you sing with me a little campfire song as I lead Brother out? You ready? This is one we kind of wrote on the trail after that night. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round young virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly silent night, holy night. Cowboys play at the sign, glorious beams from heaven above. Angels sing, hallelujah. Christ the Savior is born. Christ the Savior is born.